Welcome back to AdBits. I'm Alex Grossman. Today's guest has spent more than 30 years on both sides of the advertising business. He started agency side as a producer at BBH and HHCL before co-founding independent films with Johnny Guest, one of the standout independent production companies of its time. He then spent 15 years as managing partner at Outsider, helping it build it into one of the UK's most awarded commercial production companies. Last September, he stepped away to launch Packer Productions, a deliberately focused new company built around comedy, craft, and a small roster of brilliant directors. Richard Packer, welcome to AdBits.
Thank you very much. Hello. Thanks for having me.
You told me over email you can bore for Britain about the advertising industry. So with all your years in, and do you still reckon that's true? And also, what's the one thing about this industry you could genuinely talk about for hours and never get bored about?
Probably the people is really the thing. You know, I still enjoy, the reason I still do it is the people, be it people who are directors, producers, crew, agency, creatives, all kinds of people that you come across. That's the reason I got into it. That's the reason I still do it. I still enjoy it. So that's the main reason. I think it's the people that still keep you going. It's harder to find the stranger people now that used to really excite me when you get to work with creatives who would just drive you mad because they were just so full of passion. And the advertising industry used to be full of people that were mavericks, wanted to change things, wanted to mess things up, wanted to push things to the limit. It's being slightly homogenized now. It's harder to get those voices to be heard, but they're still there and I still love it. And you can still see by some of the work and some of the agencies want to try that still. And yes, I can probably still bore for Britain on advertising. There's also a big chunk of my little sort of little chat about me you missed out, which was I had a company with Johnny Guest called Independent Films for quite a while before Outsider, where we had quite a large.
I remember Independent because I worked opposite you. I worked opposite Independent with Johnny anyway. I don't know if you were still there when I was at Rogue.
Yeah, exactly. So Johnny and I started Independent on September the 11th of 2001, which was which was a hell of a day where I was head of TV at HHCL and Johnny and I had done a few projects, and I know Johnny forever. And we thought it'd be a good idea, with the help of Propaganda in the States and another Italian company, to set up a company which was going to call Propaganda BRW. And we were working out of Academy's offices with Lizzie and Simon. They gave us a little space, and we just signed the lease on our property in Covent Garden on September the 11th, and went back to the office, and somebody put the telly on and the world changed.
The world did change that day. Unbelievable. What a day to sign. And also amazing people around you. Johnny is amazing. Obviously legendary in the industry. I saw her quite recently, in fact. And Propaganda, of course, really amazing company. And it was, who was the owner of that? Who sadly died, who sadly is no longer with us? It was Steve. Is it Steve something?
Golan.
Steve Golan, yes. Really, really famous. I always remember hearing about him.
Amazing man.
Yeah, incredibly famous, amazing man. And Propaganda, an amazing American company, one of the best of its time by far, I'm sure.
Yeah. And also through that whole world, when it all went down, Smuggler then started. It was Brian Carmody and the other guy, I can't remember his name, who were Patrick Medding Smith. They were working at Satellite, which was another part of Propaganda. They then started Smuggler with Neil Harris. Johnny and I started Independent. Anonymous was also there. Propaganda. It just was this thing. But when September the 11th happened, it took 2 months for the whole Propaganda to implode. You know, it was built in a company that had such vast overheads. You know, it's a lot of throughout my career, lots of different learning points happened. That was a major learning point, working at BBH, learning about creativity, learning about craft, learning about how to make fantastic ads, working with new directors, finding new talent, working in a TV department, a creative department where everyone challenged each other about who's going to find the next Michel Gondry? Who's going to find the next yada yada? Who's going to work with Chris Palmer? Who's going to work with Mark Denton? Who's going to find, you know, this TV department that was built on creativity, being led by the John Hegarty's and other creative directors and people. They're saying, you got to find us as a TV department. You've got to find us the next best directors, you know, which doesn't really, but that's BBH taught me that. HHCL taught me about different kind of thinking. You know, it was fearless. You could just do, you want to make a TV show, let's make a TV show. You want to make an advert, put a phone number on it, put a phone number on it. You know, all this kind of weird thinking, you know, working with different types of people, coming to work with Johnny to do independent and propaganda was learning about how don't build a company with massive bloody overheads, because if it all goes horribly wrong, guess what? You're in terrible problems. You know, so this is, you know, so it's the whole industry for me. Like I said, I can bore for ages, but you've got to find learning points. And this is what worries me about the industry now, is that I think it's very hard for people to learn because it's happening so quickly and people want it so quickly. You've got to fuck up a few times to see how to learn. So, and there's not enough people to learn from because it's just changing. And you can see, you know, just, it's really interesting I started the end of September, was when I kind of opened the doors for Packer Productions. And yeah, it's nearly been a year, which is great. You know, I've had a fantastic time. I've been very lucky. I've made some nice ads and it's all been quite fun. But it's really interesting to see over that year where it seems like every production company is signing an AI director or wants to have an AI division. It's like, I get it. And that's the same way it used to be. Let's have a tabletop director. Let's have a car director. You know, because we have to do offerings, you know, production companies about, oh, let's go to this place and they've got one of everything and you can do a bit of that and it's great. And that's how people should do things. I've gone the other way. I'm just niche. You know, come to me, send me a comedy script. You send it to Harold, you send it to Bart, you send it to Bicep, you send it, you know, I've got a range of comedy directors who are some of the best people in the world. I just want to do comedy. It makes me laugh. I enjoy it. I've always enjoyed doing it. And that's it. I'm not going to have 30 directors. I want to have 7, 8, maybe. That's it. You know, and even then, they're probably going to be moving around because people aren't always available to do stuff all the time. So I've gone the other way because I've seen how big these places can go. And it's amazing. If you're Biscuit, fantastic business model. It's brilliant. You know, Rupert and Noam and Sean, all those people that are running Biscuit.
Rupert, who also used to work at Independent.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting where we hired, Johnny and I hired Rupert. We found him working in a bar. He was a friend of our receptionist. And, you know, Fergus, who used to run Smuggler, was a producer Independent that helped. So Independent had a very core group of people that we helped and bring, and they've turned into great things. But also BBH when I was at BBH, producers at BBH, Sally Campbell was a producer at BBH. And, you know, she's done all right or some such. You know, it's about working these places where you can see and grow and learn different things. And that's how I've always enjoyed working with people and helping them and giving them opportunities to do different things. And that's kind of, and when I realized the middle of last year or beginning of last year when I was doing a shoot and board, I just thought, you know, I just want a massive change. I just need a change. And that's where I just thought, let's do Packer Productions, because why not? I could just do it by myself with a great bunch of directors and bring in some fantastic freelance people as and when I do it, when I need to. And for me, it's a business model that works. And I can have a laugh doing it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think it's obvious, but what do you think is the reason for, I've been thinking about this, like the change of, what are the main changes in the industry in that regard? You know, why don't we seem to have obviously we don't seem to have the time for lots of reasons, but why don't we have the mavericks that we used to? Why is the industry not attracting those people? Is it because, I mean, in my mind, it's pretty obvious. It's because the arena isn't necessarily there for the work as it was. Whereas, you know, when I used to work and shoot a job, my dad would call me, say, what have you been up to? And I'd be like, I shot this, this, and this. And he'd go, oh, wow, I've seen them. Yeah. And now if I go around to his house and I've got Sky on, which is one of the only things I get to see a lot of advertising on, if I have it on, because I'm like, I need to see this, Dad, it's really important. If I don't have it on mute, I get grief. You know that
Yeah.
it's not allowed. It's illegal. It's almost illegal.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've sort of answered my own question. But do you think that's it? I mean, it's very interesting what you said about the time that people are given. I mean, I couldn't agree more. There doesn't seem to be the confidence of jobs coming through necessarily, so that you feel that you can push back on things. Again, I'm sort of answering my own question, but is there anything else that you would say? It's obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the obvious answer, and that's the thing. And also, the industry was designed for people that wanted to be disruptive, and now being disruptive isn't naming yourself by being disruptive. Being disruptive is being disruptive. So when you see these companies calling themselves, "Hey, we're the disruptive company," it's like, just be disruptive. You don't have to
don't call you shouldn't have. It's like saying I'm really crazy guy, or it's completely ridiculous. I'm so funny. I'm a really funny guy. It's like you always hear that with them. Exactly.
I'm disruptive.
It really
man.
is.
It's like, come on.
Yeah.
It's like, just do it. And that's what, like BBH used to bring itself in, used to have these like strategists now, or planners as they used to be called, were the most disruptive people. They had to be. They're the ones that used to give the creatives the ideas to help them come up with you, give them the freedom to do mad shit. But that sort of became, as I said, it just there was a moment where like account men used to be with strategists. It used to be really crazy people enjoying like eclectic music. Used to come in, come in and say, listen to this music track, heard this is great, this is really exciting. And then all of a sudden they became rugby players. And they all looked like rugby players. And they weren't being disruptive and they weren't being creative. It was a different function. But the ones that's still shining, like the Uncommon of the world and Mothers and all these. So what I've seen, just starting my own thing this year, is that I've been working so much more with smaller independent agencies, who want to work with creative directors and different types of directors doing comedy, way more than the big groups. And I'm not sure why that is, because I'm sure the big groups will come knocking on the door eventually, and I've had quite a few scripts from them, but I haven't got over the line with them. Well, it's definitely been like, we did a great campaign for Wise with Ace of Hearts, which was brilliant. It was so much fun. Rick Brim, it was a joy, because there was so much less aggravation from, they just like one meeting with Rick, decision made, we've got the cast. This is it, in the same with Mother, we graded straight away. With Uncommon in Stockholm, fantastic. What creative guys that are out there who are just having a great time doing it. Even TBWA Manchester, who are sort of part of the TBW, but they're independent. Complete freedom. So it's there, and they're still having fun, but it's just like you've got to really dig and try and find them. And it's hard. The hardest job in this industry for production at the moment is selling. If you are a sales rep in this industry at this moment, the worst job in the world, because no one's got time for you, because they're all so busy. It used to be, I used to always think selling was about doing someone a favor. It's like, you really need to look at this guy Noam's showreel, because he's really, really fucking good. If you look at it, I promise you're going to love it. And they'd look at it. But now you can't even have that conversation with people because they haven't really got time.
No.
And it's sad. It's really sad. I used to get into the office when I was in an agency at 8:30 in the morning and look at reels. That used to just be my vibe. I used to like it. I was like, I'm being paid to watch telly. Fucking brilliant. So how is this not the best job in the world? So you used to like sit there with a pile of show reels and watch it and come back, and and then I still was outsider. I was the guy I would always get in at 8:45 in the morning, because I click on David reviews or whatever it is and look at the work. It's just kind of, it's either inherent in what you like doing or it isn't. And when it becomes a chore instead of a passion, then you're a bit buggered. And when your time,
it's interesting.
when the time runs out for you, when there's not enough hours in the day for you to do that, then what are you doing? You're worrying about a million other things instead of actually the joys of saying, I've just found this great Japanese director. Have you seen this animation with this guy getting his head blown off? It's hard. And then, or you end up looking at it on Instagram or YouTube, or, someone sends you, I saw an AI film last week from, what's his name, the South African director who did District
Neil
9.
Blomkamp.
Yeah, and I was so excited. I was, I'm going to watch this. I watched it and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake.
I haven't seen it yet, but I saw that. I saw something you may be interested in. There's a guy called Gossip Goblin.
Oh, right.
And the reason I mention it is because he's actually made a film. It's like half an hour. I watched it last night, and I've come to this realization. It's just for this week. I'm sure it will change next week when it comes to AI. But I think the idea of mirroring reality doesn't work at all with visualizations on AI through AI. It doesn't look real, doesn't feel real. So the only way to make it work, a couple of things I've seen that I think are going to work. It's got to be hyper real, for want of a better word. You know, hyper crazy, really out there. Because obviously we could never, you couldn't really shoot it. Something where you could shoot it, but it's not really realistic for the subject matter or something like that. Anyway, this guy Gossip Goblin it's not just hyper real. It's a really interesting take on where we are as a society. It's all about, to cut to the chase. It's all about this guy who is uploading reality to people who are just bored now in this sort of futuristic dystopian future. It's quite out there, but in a wonderful way. Anyway, he's done a half-hour thing on that, and I think only when you're depicting scenes or images or a storyline which is so out there, then it works really well, I think. Yeah. But when you're trying to do anything else, which is sort of a traditional, not traditional, but normal. What's the word? Normal. A simple storyline, let's say. Yeah. It doesn't really. It loses. It just isn't there at all. So it's definitely got its place. And I'm sure that will change, as rendering changes and it gets better. But there is something massively off with it at the moment, and it feels. I don't want to say soulless. I don't necessarily believe in things like that. But for want of a better word, that seems to be where it's at the moment.
Yeah, but also
for me, anyway,
it doesn't have to be something that creates the whole thing. It can just be a tool.
Yes.
Yeah, and eventually, I think you'll probably end up just being a tool. There'll be some people that will make some, until Netflix makes its first 12-part AI TV show that gets 100 million viewers. It's probably a little bit far away. Not going to happen just yet, but it's going to be a tool where it will affect post-production companies, and we're seeing that now, really sadly, where poor post-production companies are being hit left, right, and center and really struggling because, yes, if you want to shoot something and you want to change the background, you want to do it, there's going to be ways. So you just, in the same way, 20 years ago, you'd have to have 1,000 extras to shoot a big scene and move them around a stadium if you're doing a football thing. Like 100 of you sit there. Now you move. Now you don't have to do it like you can do it in post. You can do it in AI. And so that makes sense. So the industry is always very good at making sense of new technologies, and I think we'll get there. Yes. We don't have to then, not everyone has to be an AI director. Everyone can just be, actually, we're using this to make sure this shoot we're doing, a 4-day shoot, 3-day shoot, actually feels like a 10-day shoot because we managed to change the backgrounds and change this. And it just enhances the way we do things. And that's where advertising production has always been its strength, by using new technologies and enhancing them and working with them and growing with them, rather than going, we're all in. Well, everyone shouts we're all in, and then it doesn't work. And then it starts, coming out being, oh, we used a bit of AI for this background and it's brilliant. And we did this for this and we created that in this, or it helped us during our pre-production stage. Yeah, it's always a way,
Well, we've been going completely off piste on my questions, but I'd like to bring it sort of wrestle it back.
I do apologize.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it. That's why I've just sort of gone. I'm not trying to pull it back, but there has to be some semblance of reality. Otherwise, I'm concerned about our timings and of getting of the podcast. But so if we talk about now. Leaving 15 years as managing partner at Outsider, helping build one of the UK's most decorated production companies. Then you walk away and start again from zero with Packer Productions. What was the actual moment you decided building something new was worth more than staying somewhere already winning? And as I'm just finishing off, I'm kind of you've referenced it already, that one shoot last year you were saying. Or was there more to it than that?
No,
was it just the industry's changing? I mean, what's your feeling?
It's not. It wasn't really an industry thing. It was more a personal thing. It was more about happiness. It's as simple as that. It was, you know, Outsider might still be, see what happens, one of the best production companies around. You know, it was brilliant. It changed. We had a moment where, you know, we became part of a bigger group, and the different agendas were just on the table. And for me, I was still enjoying with my direct relationships with the directors that have come to Packer Productions with me are directors who I've had relationships with for 10, 15 years, you know, or, you know, so, you know, who people I've known a long time, and we've been through a lot together. And I was on a shoot with Howard Einstein in Mexico doing a Hellman's campaign about year and a half ago. And I just thought, I'm really enjoying this, being on a shoot in Mexico. And I was in the hotel one night, and I walked downstairs to the bar, and in the bar was Noam was in the bar, and Tommy Kuntz was in the bar. No,
I mean, you're talking, just for people who don't know them,
the directors.
And Tom Kuntz. Yes,
Yeah.
These are some of the most awarded directors in advertising history.
Yeah, and there was like three or four other people there, and I hadn't seen Noah for about 2 years, or no longer, maybe 5 years. And I sat there, and it's like, and we'd done so much work together at Independent. We won, you know, some huge ads, won every bloody award possible, working on stuff together. And I just thought, my God, we were sitting chatting like I hadn't seen him for like a week. And I just thought, this is what I really enjoy doing. There were such nice people in the industry still, you know, and there was people that I liked being with. I was with Howard Einstein, and we were with a great agency doing a really fun campaign. And I just thought, but then I would go back to my room and open my computer, and I just think to myself, why am I still looking at a computer at 11 o'clock at night, looking at stuff I don't really want to look at, worrying about stuff I don't really have to worry about, because I've done it for 15 years. Everything's going to be fine. So actually, what do I need to do? Do I need to just get out of this industry and try something else? Or actually, I did a little list, you know, pros and cons of things I like. It's quite nice writing things down. And I wrote things down, and my list was, I enjoy people, I enjoy creativity, I still enjoy making ads, I still get a buzz going to the cinema and seeing my ad on the screen. Well, these are all quite good things. How do I do this without it, you know, destroying a load of other people? Or how do I do this where I have a grown-up conversation with people, say, look, I've done 15 years, I'm a shareholder in the company, I just feel it's time for me to move on. Shall we do this in a grown-up way? Yes, we should. Great. Okay. Well, I'm going to do that. And, you know, the first person, Howard Einstein, who's a close friend as well as a workmate, for want of a better word, was like, you're unhappy. Why don't you do something that makes you happy? And I said, well, I might do this production company thing. Said, great. I'm the first one that comes with you. Here we go. I said, okay, great. Let's do it. Let's have a chat about it. And that was basically it. And I think it's very hard for production companies at this moment, where you try and change something from an existing model. So if you're a production company and you've got an office and you've got 5 staff and you've got 20 directors and you've got 2 salespeople and you've got overheads of X amount per month, and you turn around and you can see the writing on the wall that the industry is shrinking a little bit, but you're tied into a 5-year lease, or you've got all this kind of stuff. You can't all of a sudden say, right, I'm shutting you all down and I'm starting again with 0 overhead. You just can't do that. The business model doesn't allow it. Your directors will get spooked, everyone. So for me, it's like, well, how do I start a business now with a completely different business model, where I can just start, and every job I can do is about doing it for creative reasons, because I want to do it and I want to do it with nice people. And that's what I did. And within a month of opening Uncommon in Stockholm, knocked on my door with this fantastic producer, Marcus, who runs a company called Connolly in Stockholm. You should talk to Marcus, actually. He's a legend in the European advertising industry, and is one of the most eclectic thinkers you would ever talk to. He is a genius. I'll give you his contact afterwards, but you should talk to Marcus. He's unbelievable. And yeah, he turned the Pope-mobile into a thing for Gaza recently, where they sent it
right, no, I haven't heard about that.
Golden Can. It's amazing. And he does all of the production stuff for Uncommon Stockholm. And our first jobs, I wasn't even planning to shoot till July. I thought if I open the doors in September, if I get a job by January, fantastic. I opened the doors on the 15th of September. I got confirmed on a job on the 20th, and I was in Los Angeles with Marcus and Harold shooting in beginning of October. And it was like, okay,
which if anyone who's in the industry now knows is an unbelievable thing to be able to achieve.
Yeah, it
all power to you.
Yeah, I hadn't even got my website working yet, So I just thought, okay, so this might work, and then came back and I met Zeynep and TBWA Manchester, the creatives there who I know really well. Becky, who's fantastic. She phoned me up and said, I've got this great charity job. And I looked at it and I said, actually, one of my daughters suffers from endometriosis. I'd love to be involved to do this. And I said, look, I've got this great young director called Zeynep. She's amazing. Can we do it? She's great. And off we did. And we both put a bit of money into it, and agency and myself. And it was probably one of the most satisfying shoots that I've done in my whole career, where all my mates wanted to help out. We had wonderful people doing the makeup. We had a great DOP, David Proctor, who brought in these lights. We had Free Folk giving us the post and the grade. We had Tiny Little Things music company doing the sound. And we had a one-day shoot. At the end of the shoot, I was sweeping the floor, lifting the apple boxes, and I just came at it saying, this is why I fucking want to do this. And that was 2 jobs in 2 months, and then I thought, okay, I better take a breath. Let's actually see what I want to do in Packle Productions. Then another script came in for Harold. Then a script came in then I signed Mary Sue a script, and then a couple of scripts came for Jay. It's like, okay, let's just, I think it's going to be okay. I've got great directors, because all you can really base yourself on is the talent you're selling. I can phone 50 people up, but they're only going to give you a job if the talent's any good. We all know that. And so it's kind of just happening, and I'll see where it takes me over the next year or so. And I've been asked this question. You might ask it again. Maybe it's the question you did ask, but I've been asked, why didn't you do it 15 years ago? Why are you doing it now? Well, the difference, if I did it 15 years ago, I'd want to be building Biscuit. I'd want to be like, I need an empire. I need to be Smuggler. Now I have no interest to be anything like those wonderful companies at all. I just want to do it really simply, wake up in the morning, not worried about a phone call saying we can't afford to have hobnobs. We can only go with Asda home brand on reception this week. Not every job being life or death. Oh, if we don't turn over this amount this month, it means that next month we've got to do. It's like, no, that's not conducive to doing good creative work and good creative thinking. So, which is very hard for companies to do now, because you can't, as I just said, throw the baby out with the bathwater and start again. Well, I could.
Also, you can't, years ago when I used to work at places like Rogue, we could guarantee within reason the amount of days we were going to be shooting a year.
Yeah.
And now you can't, there is no options on that. With service, you mentioned with post houses before. I remember a long time ago ringing up and getting 6 figures worth of free post.
Yeah.
Which is a huge, massive thing. And I just took it for granted in a way, but people would do it because we were turning over so much work.
Exactly.
So they knew that
the next
director,
Sam
you're
job
building
was
that
go
director.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, it's anyway, yeah, it's nice to have a simple setup. It sounds fantastic, and I'm glad it's working so well, or it's managed to go through so well. So no, it's a lovely story to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I said, I don't know where it's going to take me. I don't know where it's going to. All I know, I have to keep a lid on it size wise. I had a moment about a month ago where we just shot a job. We just finished Back Market, and we were posting that. I was about to start pitching 3 other jobs, and there was something. And I was just like, whoa. This isn't okay. I just have to like, let's see how we can then, just through the industry, one job dies, another one moves. This, it just, you always head for the crash, and the crash will fix itself. Everything disappears off. But there was a moment like, oh my God, I don't want to be doing this kind of stuff. That means I need to bring in 3 people to help manage this, and someone else. It's like, that's, I want to be the company where an agency can phone me up and go, I've got this script. Can you help me? Which I've been doing forever. Work out the budget. Help me with the ballpark. Or do you think this is something Bart Timmer might like? Or is this something that Harold might like? And they go, yes, because I could be the guy at the end of the phone. And that's how if I can carry on doing that, then I'll be absolutely delighted.
Yeah. No, it's a wonderful thing. All right. So on this point, you've described what you're building as a vinyl experience. I quite like. Where is that? So quality and craft actually resonates in an oversaturated digital world. That's a nice line for an interview, for a launch interview. 11 months in, running an actual production company day to day, does it still hold up? Or has reality knocked some of the poetry out of it? And again, I keep asking these questions. I read the end of it and I'm like, you've kind of already answered that. And I've sort of just got my list now going through, trying to get the semblance back. But yes, you've kind of already said that. So is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, I mean, what I've worked really hard on is we've shot, apart from the first job we did in Los Angeles, because that was celebrity based, we had to shoot it there. I've shot everything else in the UK, and that's what I've been trying to do. And they've been either one-day shoots. It's like, a one-day shoot. I didn't want to take a one-day shoot to Romania, and maybe turn it into a 2-day shoot. But I'd much rather have a really good one-day shoot with Howard Einstein in the UK, working with really good crew and that's kind of what we've been doing. So far I've done everything in the UK. Look, it's not going to last, because eventually I will have to go and do a big build in Sofia, and just the way.
Well, I represent Green Desert, so I want. Well, yeah. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, So there's going to be that. But I just thought, if I can try to do this year to do as much as I can shooting in the UK, then that's going to be the way I want to try and start. Because I've got to start sort of building relationships with camera houses. I've got relationships I've had forever, but I just want to say to them, I'm here. If you help me, I'll help you. And actually people want to work. And it's made a difference. It really has made a difference. And a lot of the work we've done, I've been working with a really great small post house called Brash, who are three guys who have come out of Elemental and a couple of other, I think, The Mill, and they've been fantastic. So it's just like finding new. Yeah, I didn't know those guys, but I've done 3 jobs in a row with them now. They've been fantastic, and they're part of our team now. So when Howard's doing a job in the States, I get them to be our post house over here, and they go. So it's just been really fun, and Free Folk have been amazing. So it's just having this relationship now where it's me phoning up and having the conversation instead of hearing it by 5 other people going, "Oh, I spoke to Thingy on your behalf." It's like, okay, well, I'd much rather do it myself. And still not worrying about the hobnobs. I can now get my own hobnobs.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds like a very, you use the word vinyl, I'll use the word organic way of just letting it roll out, really, rather than going too crazy. And it sounds like I'm glad it's working for you, like you said. And also being flexible. You've got these guys Brash, what they call Brash, the VFX company.
Yeah.
It's interesting being able to pick up the right people who are on a similar sort of trajectory, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And just want to do fun stuff and just try different things and sort of be part of us, like being around the camera when we're shooting. So saying, "Oh yeah, don't worry about that. I can," and everything we've done, we've been like, on all the Wise stuff. There was a moment on. Have you seen the Wise commercials we did with Ace of Hearts? There was one with a load of spiders and lizards, and have a look at them. They're great. So there's one shot where it's basically the idea is you can send money abroad very quickly or be like a local. And there's one of the ads is based in husband and wife are talking about sending their son in Australia some money because they're worried that he's sleeping in a tent in the desert, and all these animals are coming in to the desert, spiders and lizards and stuff. It's really fun. And there was, with the original conversation was oh, by the way, we're going to have to do from the agency. I've spoken to the post house, and there's a huge quote because all the animals are going to be done in CG. The tarantula, the lizard, the scorpion, the centipede, and I'm on this call with Harold and just talking about it, and Harold just turns and said, "No, I'm going to do it for real. Why would I want to do? Why do I need to do? Why do I need to do it in CG?" And we said, "Yeah, well, there's a great guy in London who's got all these animals, Big Old Trev, and we'll do it for real." And we, a part of the shoot day, we built a little tent and laid some sand down, and we shot it, and it was brilliant. And that's kind of the vinyl way of doing it. That's the same way.
That's such a clever way. I was
that's the
getting
same
some
way
quotes
Indiana
recently.
Jones was doing it. It was brilliant. And and we just, the guys from Brash said, "Was keep the camera locked off. Don't worry, I cut them out. And look at the ad. You wouldn't know." And it worked, and it was brilliant. And it saved 300 grand.
Yeah. I was listening to a quote. Someone told me about a quote they received for a monster effect or something like that, and I was shocked. So yeah, shoot for real in camera when you can.
Yeah, really. So that's that's kind of what we've been trying to do, in camera effects if we can, enhanced by the post-production guys cleaning up the rigs, all those kind of things. But yeah, eventually that will go down to we haven't had to go. That could have been done in AI, but then look at the ad. You'd be so glad he didn't. It wasn't done in AI.
I mean, shooting in camera is always there's no comparison. If you can do that, I've always believed that there's the eye still, even though as a visual piece, when you're looking at big films with lots of CGI, I do think that it looks great, but I still don't really buy that the eye buys it, if that makes sense. It doesn't know it's real. It's like when they used to shoot with with models. I love model shooting and things like that. You can get away with that because you can feel it. You can not feel it, you can see it. There's something tangible there. But I feel that with so much CGI, you don't put it down. Like the UK work, especially that I see CGI wise, is amazing, and there are amazing companies out there. But at the same time, I've always liked the tangible aspects of certain things.
You've got to have the best ones are the guys that can add the filmic. Look at the guys at Untold, the stuff the film they did with the octopus. Yeah. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, the talent and the craft. I mean, that's it's incredible. So there are so many. It boils back down to that again. Incredible people, incredibly talented people, mavericks doing great things, pushing their own creativity to the edge. Now, we got to have to hope there are certain agency producers that are still in the industry that want to do the same thing, are still pushing. Yeah. There are, so where the industry is by no means fucked, it's still got great people. The industry is shrinking, so there's less of these people. But there is still amazingly talented people who are passionate about it, that want to do a job with Howard Einstein, Jeff Lowe. The names keep still the same names keep coming up, and I just think it's now there's going to be a moment where a couple of new names keep coming through. Like Florence, a biscuit, is coming through.
Yeah.
And you can see she's going to be a superstar, and that fantastic for Rupert for spotting her. Amazing,
All right, well, listen, a quick word from Green Desert, who make this show possible. Green Desert is my company, and the real value is sort of speed and comparison. I can get you comparable ballpark bids across all 14 territories fast, so you know what a brief actually costs across a huge geographic spread before you commit to a market. That's sort of the edge it gives you of knowing where to commit. So every partner in the network who I represent is amazing. That everyone who just what you were saying, about having the right people around with the right vibe, they're all that and more. They're all top of their game. Once you decide where you want to go, I connect you straight to that partner at no extra cost. I'm just sort of representing them fully in the UK. So anyway, on to the next one. Your last job at Outsider, Howard Einstein's Cadbury Bourneville work for VCCP. Picked up 4 golds and a silver at Creative Circle this year. And by your own account, that was your last job with Outsider before Packer Productions properly began. What's it actually like watching your old company's best year land right as you're walking out the door?
Well, I wouldn't say it was best year for we're for pretty good years at Outsider.
Yeah.
That was just one ad. The best year was probably the years where, you know, good old James Rouse was winning Marmite and Harvey Nichols and all those awards one after another, and Production Company of the Year and all those kind of things. So Outsider has such a great heritage with great directors. Well, Cadbury's was an interesting one. Cadbury's was it was a fantastic script on paper, already funny. So Alice and Simon, the creatives and creative directors on it at BCCP, had written a fantastic script. David Vass. Now there you go. There's a maverick producer who's a really great producer, and it was one of those jobs that it was only a one-day shoot, and it kind of almost fit within a schedule. But it took David and myself about 6 weeks of conversations where we're just saying, look, you want Harold to do this job. Harold wants to do this job. Between us, we have to have a firm hand on the tiller and try and make this work, because we know this is going to be great. So we're going to have to juggle timings and budgets and thingies. And a lot of producers, agency producers, would have just freaked out because there was a lot of conversations. But we kept saying we both wanted to, and he was super calm. And I think he was the main reason the job happened, is because he stayed super calm on it. So David was brilliant. And then once we got into it, it was such a collaborative process that, you know, I'd already resigned. I was working my notice period at that moment. And, you know, Harold knew we were doing, and we just thought let's make this the best job possible for Outsider as well. Let's try and do this. And, but it could have been it wasn't really about who we were doing. It was about the job. The main thing. It was just a great script, and great scripts don't come around that often. And it was, you know, it was all in camera. We decided we had 3 cameras filming it at the same time because we wanted to get all the reactions. We shot it at Crystal Palace Football Club. Didn't look like Crystal Palace Football Club. We had Hannah Burkett is our casting director. She found a great cast for us, and it was different. It wasn't, you know, it's all in. There's no post. It's a conform and a grade, and that was it. And just caught people's imagination, because it was back to, and to be honest, that was the ad that sort of helped me come up with my vinyl sort of moment, because it was all in camera and it was craft, and it was back to that ad could have been shot in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s, and it still would have been good, because it was no different. It was just a great, and it couldn't ever be done in AI, because it was great casting, great little nuances that you picked up on the day. You know, the client came off the shoot saying, this is probably one of the best experiences I've ever had in production, because they were seeing it on the screen as we were shooting it. They were sitting, you know, they were in the playback area, watching right next to us, just laughing because it was funny. And you can't do that with someone looking at a tennis ball.
All right. So we're going to talk about sort of where the market's actually moving. I think we've had a brief discussion on this. You've said agencies making more work in-house is genuinely reshaping the market, and that despite all the noise about AI, there's still plenty of room for brilliant comedy and handcrafted visual effects. Which of these two forces actually worries you more for the next 5 years?
Well, the in-house is here to stay. That's not going anywhere. That horse has bolted, as they say, or whatever the term is. But, you know, because agencies know it's tricky to make money. And how do they make money? They can maybe charge a bit more for production and keep it in-house. But I would, you know, and sometimes they're going to be phenomenally successful, and sometimes they still say, oh, we don't do the good stuff, that all still goes out. The good stuff eventually will be staying in as well. So it's purely about being able to still have a great talent pool that people want to work with. Now, there's a huge market of freelance directors out there, and some of them are making really good careers now being freelance directors for agencies, and that's fine. That's what they should do, because it's an open market and people need to work. So it boils down to how you manage your production company. Now, it's once again tricky to have a huge overhead, where your directors aren't working because they could be working in house. Or so eventually there's going to be a balance. Maybe eventually, will production companies end up pitching against in-house, because maybe there's a and cost controllers become more independently, they look at all the stuff and nothing goes to the agencies. The agency producers actually become less powerful or less informed, because you can't be sending budgets in-house if you're bidding against someone in-house. So you've got to have a third party looking at stuff. It's all going to have to change one way or another. But it's like, if I knew the answer, I'd be Steve Davis. Yeah. I don't know if there is an answer, because some companies are loaning directors out, and if that wants to be their business model, let it be. Because how can you stop
fair
people?
Enough.
How can you stop people working?
You can't stop people working, and it's always been a challenge of managing a roster of directors, is managing to pay for people to support them. Financially, that's a job. And it's always been a huge challenge. And I think now with the market contracting, I actually spoke to Steve about this in Cannes, and I think we were discussing the fact of where the market is in terms of in-house to production companies. He was saying 40% is now in-house, and I was arguing it was probably a bit more. And as you said, they're here to stay, so it will be potentially a bit more than that. It'll keep increasing, is what I'm trying to get at. So yeah, no, it's interesting, but I completely agree with you. I think that's the side. I think what we discussed before about AI. Obviously we'll see. We'll probably be proven completely wrong. But yeah, the in-house is probably the one to watch. Okay, so which we are. I'm conscious of time here, so we are coming to the end. You reckon? So this is the closer, really. You reckon you can bore for Britain about this industry? The last one, and I ask everyone this: after 30 years at BBH and HHCL. 15 years building outside, and obviously independent as well, and now starting again from scratch. What do you actually want to be true about British advertising in 5 years? Not the awards version, the real one.
I think British advertising always used to be funny. Always used to be the thing people would say, "Oh, I love British. I'd love turning the telly on and having a laugh, and turning on and." It changed. I think hopefully Cadbury's helped it come back a bit, and I think if we can carry on, and if I can do a few of those a year that people look at and go, "Oh, that actually made me laugh," then you kind of think, well, that's, you have no choice with advertising. You turn the telly on. If you're watching ITV, it as you said at the beginning with Sky TV, whatever, it's on, it's there, it's in your front room. So we have to be there to entertain. We have to make sure we're doing stuff that's still fun. We're an industry that's still based on craft. So if we can still carry on doing that, and whichever direction that turns, if that's craft in AI, or if that's craft in great comedy, or if that's craft in finding new directors that come up and find things that we haven't even thought about yet. This is the thing about, production companies having to sign or wanting to sign AI directors. The ones they're signing now in about a year's time probably won't be relevant. Because someone else is going to come through and do something. It's moving too quickly. So you have to find a niche for me. As I said, my niche is about comedy, because I've always liked doing comedy. When I first started way back, I was a runner in an agency called CDP, Collett Dickinson Pierce, which its whole thing was Hamlet cigars, all those kind of advertising. So that's where I grew up. When I was 18 years old, I was in dispatch in this agency, where part of my job was checking the prints that went off to the cinema for all the Hamlet cigar ads. So I'd have to have 10,000 fucking rolls of film would turn up, and I have to sit in a room watching every hundredth one they didn't have a scratch on it. So, and that's where the industry started for me. So where it ends, who the hell knows? Maybe I'll be head of animatics at McCann, Omnicom, TBWA.net, and I'll be 75 years old, pressing a button saying, make a funny ad with someone smiling. And you go, okay. So, who the fuck knows?
I like that. Okay, great. Well, listen, Richard, this has been a great one. Thanks so much for coming on. This has all been sponsored by my company, AdBits. I can get you fast comparable bids across 14 territories. So one call, that's the edge. But more importantly, I work with 5 independent owner operators, which if you want the most creative and the best sort of service, the most creative, you want the people who are running those companies on the ground. And I only work genuinely with people I would genuinely want on a shoot. They are so bloody good. So and that's all it. So you can get hold of me at greendesertproductions.com.